What I'm interested in teaching you is 5 things. Number 1 is called 21 Days to Wellness. 21 Days to Wellness is jump-starting your transformational life. So we're looking at juicing and detoxification. We're looking at understanding your emotional flow and breaking the neural patterns of addiction to pain and suffering and terminating the reactive mind. We're looking at medical Qigong that includes breathing, meditation, anti-aging facial, ear reflexology, and internal exercises. We're looking at Pyscho-puncture, we're looking at medical Qigong, we're looking at ear reflexology. Now, the last 2 things I want to teach you is spiritual awareness and connection, okay? So we call it ACE, awareness, connection, and elevation, okay? Spiritual awareness, connection, and elevation. Now, what is spiritual? Okay, spirit ritual. Okay, now you have a physical body, you have an energy body, you have an emotional body, and you have a spiritual body. Now, I'm oversimplifying it into 4 bodies. There's more than 4 bodies, but for clarity's sake, I'm making it really, really simple and basic. The link between the 4 bodies is your heart. Okay? So you have a physical heart, you have an energy heart, you have an emotional heart, and you have a spiritual heart. And that heart modulates the 4 bodies. Now, where my energy field ends, your energy field begins. Where your energy field ends, mine begins. So we can literally merge our energy fields. Okay? We can't merge bodies, but we can merge energy, we can merge emotions, and we can merge spirits. Okay? Now let's say you had a daughter who went to India, and your daughter got sick in India. You would wake up in the middle of the night with a pain in your gut, knowing that there's something wrong with your daughter. And immediately you'd be on the phone trying to figure out what that is. That's an emotional connection. And that you would have with a family member. But when you have a spiritual connection, you're spiritually connected to everyone. Now, a couple of years ago, there was the thing in Katrina, the flood in Katrina, and people were dying and life-threatening situations. And I woke up in the middle of the night, 5 nights in a row, extremely sad and disturbed. So I immediately thought about my parents. I called them, they were fine. The next night, it happened again. I called my children, they were fine. Then I started calling all my exes. By the 4th night, I'm calling all my cousins. Something is wrong. And the 5th night it happened, I woke up and I realized that all the pain and suffering that was happening in New Orleans was affecting me. I was tuned in on that spiritual level. And then the next day, I called a friend of mine and said, would you like to go to New Orleans with me? And she said, I was thinking about calling you for the very same thing. And 5 acupuncturists got together and we caravanned. We drove all the way to New Orleans and set up shop in a hotel, and we treated people for free for a week in New Orleans. And it's out of that compassion. And I got people to donate clothes and acupuncture needles and herbal medicines. I got cash donations. So for our gas, for our vehicle, it was unbelievable, the outpouring that came. But if I didn't have that spiritual connection, if I didn't feel the pain of those people, I wouldn't have been motivated to do that. Okay? Now, there's something called sympathy and there's something called empathy. All right? So when you reach a certain level of spiritual awareness, connection, and elevation, you become empathic. Now, what is compassion? Now, some people would say Compassion is going out of your way to help people. But that is not the definition of compassion. The definition of compassion is understanding the real underlying issue of other people's pain and suffering and not making them feel bad or wrong about it, but helping them how to fish and not giving them a fish. Short example, a friend of mine was in Vietnam. He had tremendous guilt about killing people in Vietnam. So he goes back to visit. He meets a Buddhist monk. He tells the Buddhist monk, I want to do something for Vietnamese people. So the monk says, let's go for a walk. They're walking by the river. They hear a little baby crying. My friend runs around frantically trying to find out where the baby is. He finally finds the little baby in a basket in the water about to drown. So he rescues the baby. The Buddhist monk says, why do you feel compelled to rescue this little baby? And he said, because every human life has value. And he said, what are you going to do with the baby? And my friend said, I'm going to take it to an orphanage. And the monk said, there's no orphanages in Vietnam. This little girl is going to grow up to become a prostitute and a drug addict, and she's going to have a horrible life. Better you left her there to die, and then she would be reborn in a better situation. But I would not wish that life of a baby girl growing up with nobody to protect her, knowing that she was going to be turned out as a prostitute and a drug addict. Now that is a level of compassion that most Americans are clueless about. Okay? And when most Americans talk about, I'm spiritual, you don't even know what the doorway is to the Holy Spirit. Because when you go through the Holy Spirit door, then there is no attachment to your physical body. You're not hot. You're not cold. You're not damp. You're not dry. You're not hungry. You have no attachments to any worldly things. There's no itching. There's no scratching. All of the worldly attachments we have to our physical body, when you say you're spiritual, they don't exist. Okay? So I hope I gave you some clarity and insight into the first level of teachings as to what is spiritual.